You're listening to The Adventuring Party, talking about gaming the Irish way.
Welcome to the party. I'm Owen.
I'm Scarr.
I'm Liam.
And I'm SavageMick.
And we return to an old classic format here. We look back through the annals of RPGdom in search of one thing: body count. And this one has it in spades. Today, the Adventuring Party presents the deadliest encounter, Night Train. All right, folks, this ain't no Thomas the Tank Engine. This is Night Train, the infamous Deadlands TPK adventure. And considering the standard Deadlands convention adventure that Shane Hensley runs kills all the players during it, that's saying something. This is the avowed killer scenario of Deadlands. This is so infamous that John Goff, the writer, is introduced at Deadlands related events and oftentimes other events as John Night Train Goff. They're actually about to do a reprint for it. They're going to do a Kickstarter for the Deadlands Night Train 25th anniversary box set, which I goggle at a little bit because the original Night Train is in the dime novel format. What the dime novel format was the way Deadlands decided to do adventures a bit differently. Instead of having kind of a dedicated adventure or a series of adventures that justify printing as a book, they would print a slim 64-page volume in probably B5 or something. It's the size of a small paperback book.
It would fit in your back pocket.
Yeah. It's meant to evoke the dime novels of yesteryear in the States. And the first kind of 33 pages of this are actually a prose story about the adventure, featuring their original characters, Ronan Lynch, and Ronan Lynch is the main one, and there's some other people in it, kind of going through the events of Night Train. And then they pop onto the adventure proper.
Is the fiction part of it actually any good? The only one I've actually read is the werewolf crossover.
I
didn't think it was terrible.
No, it's
maybe
not
my expectations were low.
It's not bad. It's a 30-page piece of tie-in gaming fiction written by the same writer. It's not bad. There's not an ounce of badness in it. It's just like it's 30 pages. What do you need to be very
it's a short story rather than
to do a good short story. You need to be a pretty good writer usually. So it's fine. It's not, and
Okay,
it's ultimately summarizing the contents of a gaming session. So
Let me tell you about my character.
Yeah,
However, let's set the scene for our audience. Liam, perhaps you'd flip that dime store novel over and read the blurb. Give us a sense of what we're getting into.
1 second. Ask not for whom the whistle blows, because it might be blowing for you. At least that's what it seems like to Ronan Lynch when he hears the night train blowing. Sorry, there was capitalization on the night train there. Probably should have. When he hears the night train blowing its terrifying tune in the dark Kansas night. He'd been trying to get the hell out of Dodge when he was bushwhacked, and that long, low scream was the first thing he heard after coming back from the dead. Again. Try as he might, this one-handed gunslinger can't seem to escape his destiny to meet with the night train and its blood-soaked freight.
It's blood-soaked freight. Whoa.
It's cheerily overwritten in the best sort of way.
Yeah, cool. This is a peak 90s gaming product. This is when people were just throwing everything at the wall to see what would stick. Hell, I think Stephen King was sort of dime storing his novels at that time. Was it was The Green Mile or The Dark Tower was being released as kind of short shots of 64, 96 pages, something like that.
I mean, it's a classic format. It goes back to the days of Dickens,
Exactly.
Yeah, he broke them up in as little. You bought, and I think he did a couple of books like that. I think we bought one of 6 and stuff, and kind of put it together.
the frequency was there. Stephen King's a very prolific author, and he's an aficionado of that sort of Americana of the dime store novel, the short story. So this thing, it's also an era when fiction for role-playing games was a big thing. We had people were following the Legend of the Five Rings saga closely. You're tuning in every week to see what was being posted on the nascent websites of the time. 97 was
the
big year for
AOLs,
Lothair.
basically, a little. It was all back then. It was all mailing groups, like Yahoo groups and stuff.
That's
You'd
right.
join a mailing list, and you might have it might be 10 mails a day, or it might be 500, and you'd be like, switch you to digest mode for the love of God. I just need some pieces of information. I don't need my mailbox completely clogged.
So it's John Goff. He's writing the fiction. He's writing the adventure and the scenario.
Yeah.
Mentions on the back a Great Rail Wars TM scenario and a Deadlands adventure.
Yes,
Almost secondary.
the last
Great Rail Wars.
Great Rail Wars was the skirmish war game, because back in the day, everyone was trying to be a transmedia empire, and the Great Rail Wars was the skirmish war game version of Deadlands,
Right.
which is interesting because the Great Rail Wars core system was solid enough that it mutates and becomes Savage Worlds, because there was too much detail in classic Deadlands. But if you look at the stats of creatures in Great Rail Wars, you'd be like, these are Savage World stats, and they more or less are. Everything went down to a single die type, and figures were either standing up or not, or they're still alive, or they were knocked down. And it was much quicker, faster playing, well regarded, kind of at its time, and was obviously as a quick playing, kind of fast, furious, fun war game, which then they pick up and go, we just use this for an RPG, right? And all of a sudden, Deadlands goes from not being able to handle a fight with 30 guys to being able to handle a fight with 30 guys.
Okay, so that's sort of set some of the scene now. This whole thing is a package. I know the episode is part of our Deadliest encounter series,
Yes.
but one of the deadliest things about this is the prose at the front. As you said, it's dime store stuff. I'm a bit of a formatting nerd, as I'm sure you're well aware, having sort of done my time in the graphic design trenches. But there's formats to suit every sort of type of content. But what we have here is 30 pages where you get to about halfway down page 1, and the prologue is finished. Chapter 1 starts. Chapter 1 lasts for about a page, and then we get to chapter 2. And it goes on like this. But chapter 3 makes it out to a page and a half. But it's very much... I suppose it is a way to delineate your scenes, but I wonder does Mr. Goff ever sort of joke around and tell people he's written a novel that runs to how many chapters? 30 pages in, let's see. Once we get to the end of it, it's had 16 chapters over the course of...
Yeah, each of the chapters is more like a scene or an extended scene.
Yeah. None of them outstay their welcome.
No.
If you want to read a chapter a night, folks...
It's a brisk read. It's a brisk read, I'll put it like that.
And ends in a wonderful picture, as you pointed out to us before we started recording. Page 34. How did you describe it?
It's a train with a face on it, but the face is not where you expect.
It's the face is on the cowcatcher, and it's the most Cuphead looking thing I think I've ever seen.
And it's got the number on the train's front at 666. Yeah. Oh yeah.
And there's a sort of Nosferatu looking guy crossing out the population on Varney Flats.
Town.
Yeah, the town.
Varney Flats being an Easter egg for aficionados of vampire fiction.
Oh, really? What is it?
The Vampire Varney is one of the first. It's the first modern novel that features vampires, and it's about Varney the vampire, and it's often cited as an inspiration for Dracula.
Varney the vampire.
Varney the vampire.
Okay, obvious jokes aside. Okay, so the writer has clearly got his head around the material.
Oh,
and is having the kind of fun you can have with something like this. So I kind of, the more I look at it, the more I love it.
Yeah.
But what of the adventure itself? So
the background kind of goes as follows. the Great Whale Wars is going on. It's both a war game and a plot line in Deadlands, where there's a massive contract going for the first person to successfully complete a cross America railroad. And there's an array of factions available to play because it's the 90s. And one of the factions is Bayou Vermilion, who are the super bad guy faction. They're run by Baron Simone Lacroix, who's a evil Hugon, and he effectively, his edge is that his guys will work through the night because they're zombies, and he has an array of abominations who'll fight for him. So he goes and he is poking around in the Old West, and they find a tribe of primitive Nosferatu who were imprisoned by a Navajo. So he digs them out and kind of figures out, okay, these guys are useless to me. I can't make them work because they can't work through the day, and they're dangerously uncontrollable. So what he does is he basically builds an evil train and puts them in the evil train. It's effectively got these armored kind of windowless sleeper carriages to transport them through the day. They roll into a town that he wants destroyed. They pile out of the town. They kill everyone in the town or drag them back into their wagons to be eaten later. And that's what's happening. This
So we
night
can
train,
buy up the property nice and cheap, or so we can wreck the rail town that another company has, or
I'm not sure his plan exactly. Yeah, it is the opponent's rail. What he's doing, he basically pops them onto the opponent's sleepers, and away they go, ruining causing chaos for them.
step 1, train full of vampires.
Yep.
Step 3, profit.
Yeah, basically. He is setting these guys off to cause trouble. And it's
What's
into this
bad-
trouble your posse rides.
So yeah, a very rudimentary plan in the sense. What's bad for my competitors is good for me. Also, vampires, and then
Also
certain
vampires.
amount of depopulation. Uh, okay, actually, Shane, you pointed out another little link between the multiverse of vampire lore in the villain's name.
This is just a weird coincidence, and I'm not sure things, but the villain's called Lacroix. That's also the name of the Prince of Los Angeles in the infamously buggy Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines game. So I was just curious as to like two vampire-related media both had a villain called Lacroix.
In the
LaCroix
same
does
year.
mean the cross in French.
Yeah, and
So,
everyone memes about the almost flavored water brand.
Someone go and check if he was writing for who made
Troika.
Troika, yeah, because that's the same year as far as I can remember. 97 is
2004?
no
No.
97.
Bloodlines was 94.
Yeah, but
Was it?
Night Train.
Sorry, 2004. 2004. Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
You're right. I'm thinking of Half-Life 2, not Half-Life.
In,
97 was a great year for lots of media, but yeah, I'm wrong on that one. I suspect this might have informed. It's a little.
I don't know. This doesn't seem like the kind of scenario that like the White Wolf early day people or around maybe some random.
Well, it's infamous. It's as Owen was pointing out, the author is introduced as Jeff Night Train Goff at
I suppose
conventions. So
Troika would be the kind of people who might have lost a couple of characters to this setup.
absolutely. So the scenario starts is pretty low key. You go to a isolated train station, and everyone's missing or dead. And you finding bodies. You find one or two bodies, and they're all dead with no blood in them, and they're covered in bite marks. And so this is not the best sign. So you've right on to the next town, which is Varney Flats, which has a little bit of investigation to be done about. There's some stuff going on about a buffalo hunter got murdered, but basically or murdered somebody, and he's in jail, and you have to deal with the townsfolk and so on. And it's kind of low key up enough. And then night falls, and choo choo choo, the night train pulls in, and there's a whistle, and then all hell breaks loose. Because what happens, the train pulls in, the fear level of Varney Flats immediately sets to 4, which is its own problem. And 30 vampires pile out of the train and start grabbing townsfolk and dragging them back.
So it's full send from the very first scene.
Well, the first couple of scenes are quiet, like thing, and then when this happens, it's like the switch flips. You know,
I see.
the bass drops or whatever, like clong. You know, all of a sudden, there's this 10-minute attack where vampires, Nosferatu, because there's no Nosferatu, these aren't your cool looking vampires, these are your rat faced vampires, pop out, grab a bunch of townsfolk, drag them back into the train, and the train takes off.
For those of us who don't know original Deadlands as well, what's the effect of having fear level go up that high?
Anytime you're making fear checks, you've got a penalty on your roll. And fear 4, it's a pretty substantial penalty. And also, I'm going to surprise you now. Vampires cause terror, so you know you've got your own problems immediately.
Okay, so like it's literally the vampires just go pull out of the thing, and your characters immediately have to make difficult fear checks with a -4 penalty, essentially.
Yeah.
Their terror value is pretty high, so
yeah, terror 9, I think. So you know,
with a -4.
Go make your difficulty 9. I won't swear that it's a -4, but it's definitely a penalty. Go make your terror test difficulty 9 with a penalty. Hope your spirit's high. Not in spirit back then. It was.
I mean, given like most of the time you're rolling your dice, you're rolling your pools of
D6s or D8s if you're lucky.
D10s, maybe, you know.
So yeah, roll those, and basically it would be based on how much points you have in the skill guts. So best of luck. So these guys come out, they grab a bunch of people. You may skirmish with one or two of them, but the whole thing is they're not trying to kill everybody yet. They're just picking everyone up and tossing them in the train. So there's a low chance of a player dying here. There's not no chance, but there's a low chance of a player dying.
I mean, I'll be honest. I'm looking at these guys' stats here at the back of the book, and
yeah, we played some Deadlands Classic.
Yeah.
So
how would you describe them?
Pretty much unbeatable.
I would describe them as an elite brawler. So here's the kind of relevant stats, right? First up, they've got quickness 4d12. So in the days of Deadlands Classic, you have every round in combat, you make a quickness roll. And for every 5 you get, you roll your quickness and you look at the highest dice explode. And for every 5, you get a card. And that's an action. You can get no actions in a turn. And they have 4d12.
And dice explode, so having a bigger dice pool absolutely helps with the thing. So your 4d12 could in fact result in, I roll a 12 and then I roll again, and okay, so I end up with a 17.
Yeah. They have strength 3d12 plus 2, which is superhuman. They have fighting, brawling 4d10. So I would class them as a very skilled fighter. They've got terror 9. So you may have a heart attack. Literally.
Straight up.
Yeah, there's a chance. And then what happens is they have the bite ability.
Oh, well, I mean, probably the more crucial thing in terms of any kind of fight is, so, you know, a big, nasty, brawly creature comes at me and I am in the Wild West. My first reaction is probably to shoot them in the face.
Yeah.
Do you know what shooting in the face does to these guys?
I saw something between bugger and all.
Yeah, pretty much. It does nothing. They're immune to almost all forms of attack.
Okay,
I'm getting the impression. Is the adventure like flagged as being for like elite? Like, are you supposed to have already gone a couple of rounds with the train company at this point and know to bring
No,
silver bullets?
this is
I
a
mean,
drop in and drop out one.
if I mean, you know, if I knew this is the game we were playing and I knew how screwed up it was, I could deliberately make a character who would be fairly adept at this. But I still think they'd get their ass kicked.
Yeah. This is probably, if you were running the pre-published stuff, this is the fourth adventure you've run.
Oh,
So I'm looking at this. So a couple of nice maps in this book.
Yes.
I said they're nice maps because they're usable maps. They're isometric views of Varney Flats, which takes up an entire page, and there's a small one of Barlow Station as well. And if you wanted to lay out your table for the wargame element of this, these are perfect.
Yep.
It
Hell,
also
even if you just wanted to have a couple of
good
random,
map,
you know, like, oh, here's a random stop and here's a random, you know,
small town,
Wild West town.
yeah, a
They're a
railroad
good
town.
resource.
No. So what I mean, we've outlined the problem now,
Oh, no,
which is a lot of vampires.
There's another problem we got to talk about just
Before
very
we get
briefly.
to that, I just want to make note, just for the reader or for the listeners, if you don't have the map to listen to it on, we might throw a copy of the map into the show
Yeah.
notes. But the town of Varney Flats is pretty well appointed. It has a what does that say there? Alice Station? No, that's a. Bear with me while I zoom. Oh, sorry, there's a saloon. There's a marshal's office, several homes. There's a land office, a tailor, which is kind of cool, and some stables. It has a blacksmith and a church. What it lacks, however, is a bank. And if I was going to go look for something to kill vampires with, I'd want a whole bunch of silver coins to stuff in my blunderbuss.
oh, I
So,
mean, you just raid the church.
That's where
You
you'd be
know,
wrong.
get some holy water.
oh yeah. So what's the prescribed Deadlands method for dealing with the bloodsuckers?
Well, that's the thing. If you know, you know, and if you don't know, you don't know. By the beastry, severing the head or sticking a stake in the heart.
Stake
Right.
paralyzes, does not kill.
Yeah, but I mean, paralyzing it's a good start.
Yeah. You've got a
So-
cold shock to the gizzards to paralyze with a stake.
Gizzards isn't too bad. Gizzards isn't too bad. It's
No,
one of
Gizzards
the
isn't too bad.
lower. You
Yeah.
basically take a penalty for your called shot, and Gizzards is one of the easier ones to take
I love it.
a called shot.
Okay.
It does mention they can be stunned momentarily by physical attacks in a display of mercy from the
Yeah.
scenario writer.
So to be
presumably
fair,
if you-
shooting them in the face might daze them a bit, and then you jam
Yeah.
your stake in.
Which is fine if this was like a lone psycho stalking the town kind of adventure, but this is a mob of vampires.
Yeah.
Okay, how is there any way for this to not be a total party wipe? Is what
Well,
I'm
so the
asking.
first bit is, you're probably not going to get killed. They're just going to grab a bunch of soft targets,
Mm,
bundle them back in the train, and the whistle blows again, and off it goes. Now, I just
Right.
want to do one note about fighting these things, right? The bite ability, right? When they bite, they then do strength damage each round. So, unless you knock them off,
With an
when they
opposed
bite
strength
onto
test
you,
versus their 3d12
or
plus 2.
12 plus 2, you're very difficult to. If you get caught, you're in so much trouble one-on-one.
Yeah.
If you can't break out of it, they've got you, and they're killing you with that bite. Because normally strength damage is not very much. 3 to 12 plus 2 hour is a lot. So if you get in a situation when you're fighting these things and you outnumber them, the fight is winnable. If there's 5 of you and 2 of them, the fight's winnable. It's very difficult, but it's winnable. If you're fighting 5, you have a very good chance of everyone getting stun locked effectively in this melee. If you fight more than that, it'll take forever to run, and it's suicide. So, let's talk about the next phase of the adventure, when the desperate town mayor approaches you and begs you to bring back his townfolk. And he offers you a $100 to bring back the crook they've taken, and Varney offers you $20 a head for every citizens they bring back alive. So,
Mm.
I mean, it's not nothing, but I wouldn't exactly call it train full of vampires money.
it really isn't. So he gives you a shortcut to cut across, head them off at the pass, and catch up with the train. And then basically, the next thing you're going to do is, while the train is rumbling along at 30 miles an hour, you're going to jump from horseback onto the train.
That's a very standard cowboy hero thing to do.
It's
So I mean,
a very standard cowboy hero thing to do.
I don't know if I could persuade myself to do it, knowing
No.
what was on the train.
No.
And the rolls are not necessarily easy either.
No.
There's a few onerous ones in here, and there's a hard one there as well, you know?
Yeah. So you're doing something that is risky. It is the classic, this is a risky thing to do bit of RPG bit, which serves to drain meta resources like fate chips off people. People are like, okay, I gotta reroll that. I've messed up my foolproof nimbleness to walk across the top of a carriage, and I'm about to fall off, take a wodge damage, and be left, on the rails going, how do I catch back up to this thing? Which might be a way to survive, but still not the best for everybody else. And if you botch that fall, you're then squished by the train, taking 5d20 damage, which is quite a lot in Deadlands.
And as well, if you have the bad luck trait, you just die.
Yeah.
Tough luck, you're dead.
So I have to admit, I quite admire the way this is written. There's a lot of this stuff happens, and this is what you're going to sandbox. This is sort of the writer John, I think I called him Jeff earlier, has given you enough to work with in terms of when things happen, timing, or whatever. It is, in many ways, not written as a railroad, but this thing is, as you say, once it gets rolling, and you fluff a roll or two here, and you're there may be some serious credibility bending done to get the whole party onto the train all together so that the adventure could continue.
Yeah, it's one of those scenarios where if you have one or two people who dumped physical just to, I'm a nerd. I obviously don't have any physical stats. I'm the steam scientist or whatever, or I'm the ghost rock wizard.
I'm a gunslinger, so I put all my stuff into my shooting stats, and now you want me making strength checks.
I was quickness and deftness primary. On strength rolls.
It's interesting. I think but he's written it in such a way as if you do get on the train, he's accounted for all the different things you might do.
Yeah, it's very functionally written. If a GM can be glancing at this and know, okay, this is the next section, what they're going to do. So here's your problem. What are you going to do?
What are you going to do?
So there's 30 vampires in the sealed sleeper cars. You have got inside those sealed sleeper cars. There are the people you have been asked to rescue. What do you do?
Yeah, and this thing's rolling on to the next stop.
Oh yeah, it's rolling at 30 miles an hour, which is quite fast.
Yeah, so it's kind of like if a dog ever caught a car.
Yeah.
Okay, now what?
So the interesting question is, what do you do? And it covers the things you could do. And one of them is you can attempt to run up the train and seize control of the engine. And
driving this thing, actually.
What's driving this thing is a zombie. And I bet you're thinking, zombies, soft stuff. These are easy to kill.
Knock over.
Point of weakness. If you basically decide, right, I'm going to go basically, I'll just take out the zombie real quick. One swift blow to the head and it's done. Nah. This zombie is completely functional no matter what you do to it until you destroy its body totally.
Oh.
Smash its head, it keeps going. Cut off its arms and legs, the torso will still go, the head will still bite you. Okay? So you might think, right, we'll take this out quickly. What the zombie tries to do is, if it sees them, it pulls the whistle to alert the vampires. At which point you're fighting the zombie, which is unkillable. It's not a ridiculous combatant, but it's a dangerous combatant. And it's not killable. And then it's just alerted the vampires. And you've got 30 vampires coming up to deal with. So that one has a number. Fighting the zombie, you think, right, we take out the zombie quickly. You don't take out the zombie quickly. Nothing takes out the zombie quickly. Killing the zombie involves chopping the zombie up and throwing him in the furnace. That's what will kill the zombie.
Like over the head.
Or push him off the train. Push him off the train will work, but he's very strong. So that is your own possibility, right?
So many things,
You've got a guy with an NPC with you who will discourage you from trying to fight the vampires directly. But at the same time, nearly everything you do triggers a fight with the vampire.
I was just
E-
about to make that point, and
Even
yeah,
walking along the top of the train could trigger them. Now it's difficult because anytime a PC moves along the top of the train, the vampires get one onerous cognition check. Now onerous is 9, and they have 2d8. So the only time they'll do it is on an explosion. But then, sure, you're rolling 2d8, so
No, onerous is 7.
well, so sorry, apologies. Whatever it was, difficulty 9.
Yeah.
Hard. Apologies. It's a hard check.
hard is
Yeah,
9.
yeah, yeah.
That's how broken I am. My brain went, no, onerous is 7. Hard is
Yeah,
9.
like on a 2d8, if you got,
Yeah.
you know, if you're moving up a train car full of several trains, if full of several links, it could happen. Like it's not improbable.
No, not at all. Not at all.
does it
And
list the makeup of the train? It's got how many cars on it?
it has. Let me check. Does it mention how many sleeper? There are sleeper cars. There's a freight car, sleeper cars, and thing. So if you know what you're doing, there's a locomotive, there's the sleeper cars, and the freight car. The freight car are where all the are stored, right? So if you decide to go into let's say you decide to go into the freight car first, you figure something out, go into the freight car first. You can then uncouple the car, right?
Yeah.
But there is a chance they notice you're doing it.
I
At
mean,
which point,
to uncouple a car, you need to make an 11 strength check. So I
yes.
don't know that you actually can uncouple.
No.
On a moving train, yeah.
I think it suggests possibly using dynamite, which
Yeah.
which
You can dynamite the
again,
train.
I assume that would alert the vampires.
This is just an entire sort of scenario of bad choices. Like, I'm reading about sleeper cars here. If the party boards the sleeping car during the chase, only 13 vampires are in each car. The others are in the freight car, feasting on a townsperson per turn. Clock's ticking, boys. 13 vampires against a party of, say, let's say it's a big table, let's say it's 6 people.
Yeah, you're
Right.
dead.
You're dead.
You'll lose almost all those fights. So it's a series of kind of this crazy booby trap, which you won't know how to handle necessarily. Like, how do you know? You kind of trial and error kind of gets you through it, and that's why there's so many TPKs. People go in and go, "Oh yeah, we all die." Oh dearie me.
Like, what's the best outcome here? You get to the freight car without alerting the zombie or any of the vampires, and you only have to fight about 6 of them.
Yeah.
While they nosh down on the townspeople you sent, of which there are, 14 townspeople to rescue?
Right.
Oh no, one of them's already started to turn.
And one of them turns into a vampire in the middle of the fight.
Right. So
if you die by a bite, you in 1d6 hours you'll turn into an Nosferatu.
Yeah.
Okay. This is.
So if you say let's camp out in the train and live until morning, then you've got even more vampires to deal with.
So it's a very simple scenario in some ways. Like it's very simple. It's just it is literally a bomb of a scenario. If you do the wrong thing, it explodes and kills you. And how do you figure out what the right and the wrong thing is? Trial and error, basically. You wouldn't necessarily know. Like if you had read Night Train before you played it, like a dishonorable person might do, you could probably handle Night Train, but you would be cheating outrageously.
Even still, like you'd want to have a blessed with the right miracles.
Yes.
You'd want to have, players who have heavily focused on melee and gotten good draws.
Yes. You want a fast, dangerous melee character with a blessed to basically cast protection and stuff to hold them back. And you would need someone who uses an edged weapon to chop off heads, which is actually not super common in Deadlands.
In the cowboy gunfighting game. No.
Yeah, a lot of the Native American characters are going to use war clubs.
I think the Call Shot Gizzards and having somebody else with a chopper, I think that's how you do it. But even still, you like, okay, you might take one out a round, maybe.
An awful lot of vampires.
Awful lot of vampires.
Is there an intended solution to this, or is it just like, was the intent of the writing scenario to just make it insane to even try?
To his credit, John Goff does not provide a solution.
Nope.
He's
An
just like,
aftermath.
this is the stuff you can do. Up to you guys, really. He does not provide a pat solution. There's no talisman of holy goodness to wash the place with bird life. You can be like, we'll fight them during the day. And he's like, yeah, here's what happens if you fight them during the day. They get -2 to their tests because they're inside the train.
I mean, the only way I could think, so I do not think it is possible to achieve the win condition of rescuing villagers. I think the only way you could potentially kill all of the vampires is to wait until daylight, derail the train,
Yeah.
and then application of enough dynamite, blow
Yes.
up all the
Yeah, you're
cars.
writing off the villagers at
That's
that point.
it.
That is absolutely the way to do it. Like, if I had to fight if I was like, okay, there's a mission, there's a campaign critical NPC in this car, I'm going to do it. I would bring a couple of skilled melee fighters, a couple of guys with crossbows. I'd bring a mad scientist with a stake gun. And I would fight this thing like the world's craziest delaying action. And I would figure out what the freight car is, where the people are. I would bust into the freight car, and I would find a way to blockade the other doors, decouple it, maybe with some dynamite, and then I'd have somebody with a heavy weapons to basically blow the place apart, and then flee in the other direction. I would have a second trip. I would have like an auto, like a steam wagon, load everyone up on that, and hightail the other
you
direction.
are dealing with the wounded here.
Yeah.
So you're grabbing as many bodies as you can and getting out.
Yeah, because
before...
the spoilers, it gets a bit 90s about what happened to the villagers and how they're being stored.
Yep. So I would basically extract and flee. I would not attempt to kill all these guys. I would use artillery to finish them. To basically try and break apart the train that way.
We did do it as a format before of horrendously cheating a game where clearly that the party have read the scenario beforehand. This could be a very good candidate for that.
Yes.
It's like, even with all of the knowledge in the world, is it possible to beat this thing? I don't think so.
I just call the A team. I contract this one out.
Actually, here's my question now. So we have this forthcoming Kickstarter to rebuild this in Savage Deadlands. Would the format change from classic Deadlands to Savage World? Make it more survivable? Do you think
it makes it substantially more survivable? Because I played it in Reloaded, and it's not nearly as nasty. Because the vampires don't have that immunity; they're not impossible to kill anymore. So
you can probably throw negative status effects on them as well and take them down as a team like that. But again, if they outnumber you, they can do the same thing to you.
It is dangerous, but they're not, as I recall, they're not wildcards. So they're just standard NPCs, which can be very dangerous, but it means they're a lot easier to shake and give trouble to. Whereas in the original, it's not. They're a lot harder to handle, and they're a lot more trouble a lot quicker. And you can have stuff like, the thing is, because you're not doing opposed fighting, you're doing attacks against parry. If your parry's good, you can actually hold them off a lot more effectively. So, because they've only got a single dice of it, so they might be D10 or D8 fighting, but if you got a parry of 7 or something, they're a lot less likely to hit you, and they can't kind of stun lock you as much as they could in Classic. So it's not as bad in Reloaded, not nearly as bad. It is very bad in Classic. It is incredibly lethal in Classic, because of a number of things about how hard it is to fight multiple guys in Classic, and how hard it is to kill multiple guys in Classic. And these guys are also immune to that damage, so
I mean, the rewards are great though.
Yeah,
if you survive, if the posse if the posse stopped or at least thwarted the night train, each hero receives 1 point of grit.
Yeah,
and grit's big.
Grit is big. There's good rewards. I mean, you get up to 6 points for taking the quest to go after the night train after it steals the people. So the rewards are generous, as befits the lethality, which is good. So yeah.
I guess my final question then is there genuine positive nostalgia for this scenario, or is it
yeah.
a horror situation where people laud its absolute disdain for players?
It's Deadlands. For some people, getting horribly killed is part of the. Say there's a chance you come back Harold.
Right.
Some people like this is often regarded as that killed my party, with the standard caveat of people being salty about killing the party. Other people are like, that's such a great scenario, just because it's so easy for everyone to get killed by a giant swarm of vampires.
It has a stark simplicity to it that I do find
Yeah,
engaging.
this is not a you have fallen for the bad guy's trick. No, no, this one just kills you.
And it doubles as a nice kind of generic location. I think there's, as Liam, you were saying, it's a good kind of example of here's a rail town, here's a small stop where there really is just an outhouse and a station, and then here's enough NPCs to kind of fill it in.
Yeah, like the whole essential
That's really
mundane mini adventure, just dealing with the town stuff before. Just enough for you, to get to love the townsfolk or hate them before the horde of vampires shows up at midnight.
So the deluxe reprint, the 25th anniversary box set, and I'm so tickled that it's a box set after being a very slim folio originally. You get the original Night Train, adapted for Savage Worlds, the sequel, For Whom the Whistle Blows, and an all-new adventure, The Bank Job, from John Goff, and an afterword from him about his memories celebrating the adventure. And he also gives you a set of full color pawns for the bloodsuckers, the townsfolk, the villains trying to capitalize the carnage, and the Night Train itself. So you can use the train as a model on any, or the cardstock model on any battle mat. They give you 2 double-sided fold-out maps with the 3 different rail trains in the book and a spur where you can catch up to the train. And basically 6 archetypes, like kind of pre-built PCs, 4 wanted posters featuring some bad guys, and a wild dice with a locomotive themed 6 face for acing. That's a nice. I'm definitely backing that. I'm definitely getting
That's
that.
good.
Yep.
It is a railroad adventure, literally a railroad adventure, but it takes advantage of the best parts of that. I think there's something to be said for it. Little research: John Goff did publish with Vampire a book called Bloodlines: The Hidden. He was a co-author on it. Released in 2005, so I suspect he may have had some input, some small. There's a little bit of crossover. LaCroix, as you say, a good solid vampire villain name, or something along those lines. So perhaps, just perhaps, tenuous link there. Very tenuous.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Absolutely. He also wrote the Fire and Brimstone book for Deadlands, which was the Blessed book. So maybe that's why he was like, yeah, maybe you guys should have Fire and Brimstone and brought along a Blessed.
That's one way to advertise, I suppose.
Yeah.
Oh, look at all these dead characters. Should have brought Blessed.
Did they make many more of these kind of dime novel formats?
A good number, including my favorite named one, the Adios Amigo, which was the Deadlands Call of Cthulhu crossover.
You've described that one before, yeah. Great
They
name.
did a crossover trilogy with Werewolf Wild West as well.
Oh, very good, yeah.
Which was I have it. It's not terrible. Dime novels. They did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9,
Savage
10.
Passage was the one I read.
Yeah, 10 dime novels. Perdition's Daughter, Independence Day, Night Train are kind of independents. Under a Harrowed Moon, Part 1 is the crossover with Werewolf the Wild West. That's a 3-parter. The Forbidden God, Adios Amigo, which is Call of Cthulhu, Skinners and Worms, and in some of the box sets, there were dime novels as well. Coming Around the Mountain When She Comes is regarded as the best Deadlands opening adventure by a lot of people because it's a bit of everything. So,
Is the worms a Tremors ripoff?
Yes, they're Mojave Rattlers. Have you ever played Deadlands?
Haven't, no, but
Mojave Rattlers are Tremors worms.
I've been watching. I just finished watching the last of the Tremors movies last night.
Oh, amazing.
Number 4 is set in the Wild West in a rail town. So
There's a great bit of artwork in the original book of with a bunch of braves running Mojave Rattlers off a cliff.
Yeah.
awesome.
Do you not run that scenario or a Rattler scenario at Leprechaun like 10?
I ran a Tremors ripoff scenario, yes, which was Deadlands. It wasn't the Worms die novel. I wrote up my own Tremors ripoff one, which was well regarded.
Which works really well. I'm really kind of feeling the lack of genre mashups in the RPG space at the moment. Like we came up in the 90s where there was so many of them, the early 2000s, and now there seems to be a sort of a genre purity. Don't get your furries in my sci-fi. Don't get your don't get your post-apocalypse in my fantasy. Like, where did that go? It seems to be kind of missing at the moment, and I think it's given us some of the most idiosyncratic and uniquely roleplay kind of genre
I mean,
mashups.
is that not essentially what Spelljammer is?
What Spelljammer is the memory of
Wizards in
something you love.
space.
Yeah, the memory of something you love taken, theme parked, and sold back to you as a tasteless mush. But that's
Any of the Weird Wars stuff or Cthulhu Wars or like there's a bunch of World War II and weird stuff.
True. Yeah, it just doesn't seem to have found.
I saw one of Vampires in the Reich being kickstarted recently. You're a crack team of vampires who are going to go down and take down the Nazis.
But see, that's my point. I mean, the big companies have kind of all retreated into fairly
they play it super safe.
Yeah, silos.
But I think those things are alive on
they're
being kickstarted.
Yeah,
they're definitely not as prominent as they used to be.
Yeah, if you want to have a weird genre mashup, I think you're going to have to go to itch.io these days. That's where the indie scene is working its magic.
At what point does mashup become fetish?
I would describe the modern iteration of Spelljammer as Brian Herbert and Kevin J. Anderson present Spelljammer.
Oh, damn!
And I have to say, what I've seen of the new Planescape doesn't fill me with a great deal of hope either.
It's part 2, man. It's part 2.
Okay, look, we've the Deadliest encounter might be what publishers do to revere its settings.
Perhaps we'll have come back to these topics again another day. I feel like we have an episode on box sets on us at some point, but well, is the whistle blowing? Is it time to leave?
All aboard! This train is leaving the station.
I will just say that John Goff once gave an interview about this, and he said that another writer, Matt Forbes, who was a bunch of superhero stuff, said, I think it's too deadly. There's like 30 of these things in a train. And Shane Hensley said, leave him. It'll be our Tomb of Horrors.
Shane, master marketing guru Hensley strikes again. That man knows what the public want. All right. Well, this has been Deadliest Encounter. Thanks for bringing, yet again, for finding us something that will absolutely guarantee to wipe your table clean. Owen, you always bring the worst to the best, to the best to the worst.
Absolutely.
If you've got any suggestions, folks, we'd love to hear from you on our Discord. We have a Discord. Check the show notes for a link or description. And if you've played this or if you have any memories of other sort of mid-90s, late 90s era classic
especially if you played it and survived.
We'd love to hear your tips and tricks. But for now, it's been the Deadliest Encounter, and this party is over. Thank you for listening to The Adventuring Party. If you'd like to leave us a voicemail, you can head on over to SpeakPipe and drop us a line. Or you can join us on our Discord server, where we keep the party going after hours. Otherwise, you can find us on Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, Twitter, or you can email the hosts at party@theadventuringparty.net. The Adventuring Party is released under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Share-alike version 3 license, but you probably knew that already. We hope you enjoyed the episode, and look forward to seeing you back here next week. Goodbye.